Welcome to Chemo Coffee Talk, your weekly dose of resilience, inspiration, and a whole lot of heart. I'm Carly Fouth, a triple-negative breast cancer survivor who started this podcast right from my chemo chair, and now I'm coming to you straight from my kitchen. Whether you're fighting the fight yourself, supporting a loved one, or just here for a little encouragement, you're in the right place. Every week, we'll chat with my cancer-fighting buddies, caregivers, and experts, sharing stories that are real, raw, and uplifting. So grab your favorite mug, brew up some resilience, and let's dive into a conversation filled with humor, hope, and the unstoppable human spirit. I'm committed to continuing this podcast to reach and help as many people as possible. And any kind of support makes a huge difference. So subscribe and share it with friends. Your support keeps me going and helps me spread hope even further. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the next episode of Chemo Coffee Talk. I am very excited to have my friend. We grew up together, although she's a little bit younger than me, Nicole Hope. She's founder of Expand Wellness Coaching. Nicole is a health coach and a breathwork facilitator. And I thought it would be really helpful to have Nicole on today to talk about breathing. As I have talked about before, the cancer diagnosis, the whole journey is really scary. And I found that breathing, especially Nicole and I had talked before, so I was able to use a lot of what Nicole had taught me in my journey to help calm my nerves, calm my anxiety. Breathing was a huge part of that. And I found Nicole's tips that she has given me over the past couple of years really helpful. Nicole has her own podcast as well, and she's been a guest for my Fit Fun community in our live motivation sessions. So I thought it would be really nice to have Nicole on today to talk about how breathing can kind of calm you down, especially during the cancer diagnosis. And before I even hit record, we were talking about how this isn't specific to having a cancer diagnosis. There's no special way to breathe if you have cancer. But I think it's really important to learn about this even ahead of time so that when you're faced with something like that, you can come into it with a way of really being able to help yourself through it. So Nicole, welcome to Chemo Coffee Talk.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here on the other side of the mic.
I know. It's so nice. Nicole had me on her podcast. So we've been talking for it's really nice because over the past year or so, we've had a lot of things to talk about. So this is a huge treat. So why don't we just get right into it then? So how can mindful breathing help cancer patients manage the stress and anxiety that often come with a diagnosis or treatment? Why don't you give your thoughts on that?
Okay, so obviously any diagnosis, and I know we're talking about cancer, is going to feel very overwhelming. And it causes these feelings of anxiety and stress because you're embarking on the unknown. And that happens in a lot of different areas of life, but obviously we're focusing on cancer. And doing mindful breathing is just a tool that we have. We have control over our breath. And it's something that we can just lean on anytime that things feel out of control. So when we're practicing mindful breathing, basically we're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So you might know this more like the rest and digest system. And activating that lowers our heart rate and it reduces our blood pressure. And it basically tells your body that it's safe to relax. So that would be something that would be really beneficial in a time where you're feeling stressed. And this shift reduces our cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone that when is elevated for a really long time can suppress our immune function. And obviously we want to have the best immune function possible when faced with something that is creating illness. So I like to think of it as a way to anchor ourselves in the present moment and find some calm in whatever chaos is happening. And when you're breathing deeply and intentionally breathing, you're telling your body, it's okay to relax, even if it's just for this one moment. And there's a lot of different strategies that you can do and breathwork techniques, but you want to get your body into that place of relaxation so that it can function in its best way possible in that moment.
I really like that idea that you said in the beginning of what you were talking about, and it gives you some control because a lot of times I know everybody that's diagnosed with cancer or something else, it's this feeling of being out of control. And I always try to remind people that to try to focus on the things that you can control. And breath is one of those things that no matter what's going on around you, you have control of your breath because it's in your body and you can decide how you are going to breathe. Are there any specific breathing techniques that you would recommend for patients experiencing, I could say chemo-related fatigue or pain, but we can even broaden this to any kind of fatigue or pain? Are there any specific techniques that you would use?
So obviously, I have not been through chemo, but I have a lot of friends who have been. And I know that it creates like physical and emotional and a mental drain. So there are breathing exercises that can combat fatigue it basically just increases oxygen flow to your cells and it helps your body relax. And a lot of this is just really slow, deep breathing. So when you do slow, deep breathing, it lowers this perception of pain because it alters how our brain is processing pain signals, essentially. So it's like counteracting that brain fog that you might feel by giving more oxygen to your brain. And a lot of people may not know that they actually are breathing wrong. So when you do deep breathing, you want to breathe into your belly. And I know that you know this, Carly, because we've done this before.
Yep.
So this is diaphragmatic breathing. So if you just put your hand on your chest and one on your belly and you inhale deeply through your nose, you should feel your belly rising like a balloon, like it should go out like a pregnant belly almost. And then when you're exhaling slowly, you let your belly fall, where it's kind of like your belly button is going toward your spine. So that's a correct way to breathe. A lot of people breathe backwards where they inhale and their stomach goes in, and that creates really shallow breathing. And shallow breathing is when you're breathing in your chest, and that is not going to give you the calming feeling at all. So the first thing I would do is work on this like really deep diaphragmatic breathing where you're getting the breath really like low into your belly. So it's kind of like when you hear a singer, you know how when people sing, like they say like really sing from your belly and not from your throat. I'm not a good singer at all, but I just know this as a whatever, a tactic that they use, but it's because you can't get a full breath if you're just breathing from your chest. So we want to get more oxygen into our body, which reduces the feeling of exhaustion. To start, like if you're just beginning, I would just do like a full 5 to 10 minutes, like set your timer, close your eyes, put a hand on your stomach and just feel that deep breathing. You can breathe in through your nose really gently for like if you can do like a count of 4, if you can move it to a count of 6, everyone's different. So you don't want to feel like you're running out of breath. It should just be like a really deep, full breath in. And then an exhale, you can exhale through your nose, you can exhale through your mouth if that feels better for you. Honestly, either one is okay. But the inhale has to be through your nose. That's like slows down our inhaling breath. And just do like, you will feel a relaxation of feeling come over you if you sit through 5 to 10 minutes of that just deep belly breathing.
Should the inhale length match the exhale length? Is that key, or can they be different lengths?
So on this one, you can do either way. Like, it's funny. I always say there's a wrong way to breathe, but there's no like wrong way to do breath work. So if you are doing this type of breathing to start, I would say, yeah, like try to make it an even breath. So you're just getting like a full in 4 and out 4, full in for 6, out for 6. But there's also a benefit of doing an extended exhale, which is something that can calm you right in the moment. So anytime you extend your exhale, so whether you do it in this respect or another type of breathing technique, that will bring even more calm into the body. So extending the exhale. So if you inhale for 4 and you exhale for 6 or exhale for 8, that extension will provide a sense of calm.
So I remember from my yoga training as well, and sometimes when I take yoga classes or I teach them, I teach to like inhale until you can't take in anymore and then exhale until you can't let out anymore. Is there a benefit to breathing like that as opposed to counting, like really breathing in until you, what is that's happening when you're breathing like that?
So yeah, to really clear out get clean oxygen and take in a full breath, you can just do inhale for the feeling of fullness and then exhale for the feeling of emptiness, and that's fine. Like you can just get into your own rhythm. You don't have to count. There's a lot of people who like to count. It like takes their mind off something else. You can also just focus on your breath. When you're doing an extended exhale, then yes, you want to count because you want to make sure that your exhalation is longer than your inhalation. So that would be like counting for 4 counts in and then exhaling through your mouth for 6 counts or 8 counts or 10 counts, even if that feels good.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about proper breathing, how it can impact the body's ability to heal and maintain strength. From what we're talking about during treatments, whether it be chemo or radiation. But how does that impact the body's ability to be able to handle those things?
So the way that we breathe directly impacts how we heal, because intentional breathing is delivering oxygen to our cells. So we need that oxygen for energy and for repair. So it's like fueling our body, you know, like giving our body fuel to do the job that it needs to do. And when we're stressed, like I was saying before, we often take shallow breaths, which limits the oxygen flow. That's when we, you know, people who breathe, inhale, and like their shoulders are raising up every time, like, you know, when they're stressed, like just feeling that breathing in your chest and not in your belly, that creates more tension like in our body. So we really don't want to do that. So by focusing on the belly breathing, you can improve your circulation, you could reduce inflammation, and like all of that supports our immune system, which is obviously what we want, especially when you're going through something like chemo. So the other thing is that there's something called nitric oxide, and those levels, it's different than nitrous oxide, but we confuse it. But deep breathing increases these levels, and it's a molecule basically that helps blood vessels relax and improves circulation, and it delivers nutrients and oxygen to our tissues more efficiently. So this would be something that would be critical during chemo or radiation when like your body's already working overtime to repair itself. So the breathing will just help you, you know, give your body what it needs during this time. And it also helps reduce inflammation, which is a common side effect of cancer treatments too. And we all have inflammation in our system. So anything we can do to reduce inflammation is beneficial. And then lowering stress levels, like through that diaphragmatic breathing, also decreases inflammatory markers. So that makes us more resilient. Like the less amount of inflammation we have in our body, the more resilient we are for healing. So breathing is just like ultimately self-care. And it's like you said earlier, it feels like so small because it's like, okay, we breathe and we don't even think about it. But when we do intentional breathing and we actually do think about it, it's really, really powerful to support like our whole system.
I'm wondering, like, now that you're talking, I'm wondering why. And again, this goes into like, I wonder why they don't have a fitness mentor going into the chemo room. But I wonder why there's not more importance placed on somebody like you or somebody like another breathwork specialist coming into the chemo room or the radiation room to help the patients get through what they're going through. Because just thinking back on my own journey, especially the first chemo treatment, I mean, the last thing that you are thinking about is how you are breathing because your mind is racing and you have so many thoughts going through your head. But to have that person or to have that knowledge ahead of time to help you when you go into the room, I mean, I feel like that would be so beneficial. I guess that's not really a question. It's just a comment.
No,
I feel like
agree
you
with
could
you.
totally get into doing that. I feel like I have all these ideas for nonprofits, and now I'm just like, oh, a breathwork nonprofit.
I mean, it's so crazy because, like, obviously we need to breathe, right? All of us. That's essential to life.
Yeah.
But we're not taught how to breathe properly. No one's really teaching us unless you go out on your own to seek that information out. So a lot of people are just going through life like completely breathing wrong and not getting the benefits of proper breathing, which is like, it's the tool that we can control. Like it's the only thing we can really control within our system.
Yeah.
So
and from talking to you before, you had such an impact after I really paid more attention to how I was breathing. I was starting to sleep better. We talked about how I would wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety.
Yeah.
That was before cancer, and now it's like times 10. But that breath work or that ability to breathe the correct way can really help you relieve that stress, and you need to get your sleep. So that's it's just, I feel like more importance should be placed on this, as I know you do too. But
yeah, and you know, a lot of like, I don't know, like people don't believe that we can heal ourselves or like we have the tools to help our own healing process, but we absolutely do.
Yeah, I am. Well, that brings me to the next question. So, I mean, we talk about the cancer patient, but like for caregivers and loved ones, I know I say this to my husband all the time, or I said to him during the journey that sometimes I think it was easier to be in the position of being the cancer patient than it was to be the caregiver, because being the loved one or the caregiver, talk about not having control. You have control over anything, and I feel like that's super stressful. So are there any breathing practices that you can share or recommend that caregivers or loved ones can use themselves to manage stress while supporting someone with cancer or with going through some kind of personal battle? Are they the same, or is there any different kind of breathing you would recommend?
So before the Navy SEALs do any sort of task, they do square or box breathing. So like that is probably on the spot. Like if you're feeling stressed, the easiest way to ground yourself. And that's just an even count. It looks like a square. So you could think of it in your head like a 4 inhale. You hold for 4 at the top. This is through your nose. Exhale through your nose for 4 and then hold for 4 at the bottom. And you would do multiple rounds of that until you feel calm. You don't have to count your rounds, but it will calm you down. Like that is like the most in the moment grounding, besides an extended exhale, which is always like, I talk about being in traffic and someone cuts you off and you're all stressed, like do an extended exhale, like you will calm down. But if you really need to get into like a more grounded and calm state, the square box breathing breath is really good. I mean, that's like the most commonly known and easiest one to just do, really without thinking too much into it, because it's just the even count all the way around. Mm-hmm. But there's also the 4-7-8 breath, which is called the calming breath. And that is something that I think is worth doing as like a cumulative breathwork exercise. So the 4-7-8, Dr. Weil created this, and he calls it the calming breath for a reason. So you're supposed to do this for 4 rounds. So a round is like 1 full set of the breath, and then you would do it 4 times. So the 4-7-8, are we videoing this? I'm not. Like, are we putting this on YouTube?
We are putting this on.
So
I know how to do that now, Nicole.
Yeah. I'm terrible at doing that, but so I'll show you what it looks like. But the 4-7-8 is an inhale for 4. It's a hold for 7. That's an exhale for 8, but it's like a whooshing sound through your mouth. Like it's a different type of breathing exercise. So it looks like this. So it's an inhale for 4. It's a hold for 7. Don't talk while you're doing breath work. I'm just doing it, but don't. And then the exhale is 8. For a full 8 count. So that's round 1. You would do 4 rounds of that. So that's something that I would say, and same for cancer patients too. If you do that every day, you can do it multiple times a day. But even if you do it 1 time a day, every single day, what that does is it's training your body to, in a state of stress, default to a more relaxed state than a more heightened state. So there are cumulative benefits doing breath work. And that is one of them. It's like if you feel like you're living in a very stressed state, which I'm sure as a caregiver or partner to someone going through cancer, that is how you are living. To get yourself to, on a daily basis, bring that stress level down, and or like you're going into, talk about whatever with the doctor, and all these benchmarks and all, they're going to be stressful. Doing this every single day will help your body just default in stressful situations to a more calm state.
I love that.
That's a good one.
I do have another question that just came to me as you were talking, and I did not prep you for this. So feel free to be like, Carly, I'm not answering that. But I'm just speaking from experience.
Yeah.
So what tip would you give someone like Carly before she started practicing her breathwork techniques to somebody who can't get into it or can't relax enough to do it? Because in the beginning, when I was practicing some of the things that you were telling us to do, I had a really hard time connecting to it because I found that my mind was racing and I was just getting frustrated. So then I'd say to heck with it. And then it was like this spiral. So what's one tip you would give somebody who is having a hard time connecting to their breath or even getting into it because their mind is racing and they can't even get to the point where the breath work would be able to help them? Because I know from experience of having gone through something traumatic like this, and it could be anything for anyone, that sometimes you just feel like you don't even have the ability to help yourself. So what's one tip you would give somebody to help them with that connection?
I think it's like, just don't feel like don't make this a big production and don't put so much on it. Like whether you're trying to meditate or do breath work or whatever it is, or like you were exercising your whole journey, which was good for you, but I'm sure there's days you don't want to do it. It's like we can't put so much of our energy into forcing ourselves to do it. So just do what you can. If all you can do in that day, moment, whatever, is one extended exhale, which we can all do, that's it, then that's fine. I mean, you're like, that's something that's better than nothing. So I think it's the same with anything, like waking up and not wanting to work out in the morning. Like sometimes I just walk downstairs and I like lay on the yoga mat. I'm like, well, at least I got out of bed and got in the gym and didn't stay in bed today, but I'm like so tired. I don't feel like working out, whatever. You know, we have to give ourselves some grace and not put so much pressure on ourselves to like make these things happen. But I would say don't go a day without consciously trying to incorporate even just an extended exhale, one round of square breathing. Like even if you're not connected to it mentally, like you don't feel like you're in a meditative state, doing the actual action of the breath is still beneficial for you, you know? So
you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I tell people, like you said, about fitness. Like, even if you don't feel like working out, get up, put your sneakers on, put yourself in the position so you don't break the habit.
Yeah.
And eventually the habit will come. But if you skip out on the whole thing, you're never going to connect to it. So I really love that you said that. That fits into, I think that's a great piece of advice for everything.
For everything. And like you'll eventually, if all you're doing for 2 weeks is one extended exhale a day, then it's like, okay, maybe you can just add 2 a day, or maybe you want to do 1 round of square breathing as you get more comfortable with it being part of your routine. But like trying to do everything and force the routine, it becomes more stressful. So that should not be how we look at it.
I love that. Nicole, you're so smart.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
my guest today. And once again, talking to me about breath work. I have to tell you that I have had people talk to me about breath work for many years, and I really have not listened until you told me about it. And then I don't know, it was just something, it clicked. And it's really helped me get through some really difficult situations, not only cancer, but just like sometimes just falling asleep.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just when I have trouble dealing with my kids and I just need a second. It really does make a huge difference. So I hope everyone listening to this will realize you don't have to have cancer or be up against some big mountain to have breath work for you. Nicole, tell us where we can reach you, or where our listeners can reach you if they want more information or where to work with you.
So I am on Instagram and it's Expand Wellness Coaching, and everything's there. You can DM me there. Like Carly said, I do like virtual events with her group, and I do a lot of other virtual events too, and live events, one-on-one coaching, whatever. So I'm available for that. And then my email is just nicole@expandwellnesscoaching.com. My website too, like everything's connected on my link on Instagram. So that's the best place to start, I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me again.
It was great. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on Chemo Coffee Talk. I hope this conversation left you feeling inspired, uplifted, and a little more connected. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone who might need it, and leave a review. It helps me reach more people looking for hope and resilience. And remember, no matter what you're facing, you're never alone. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving forward.